all these people.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Mighty Blaze. I'm Jenna Blum. I am the co-founder of The Blaze. And for those of you who are joining us just for the first time, let me tell you who The Blaze is. We are a team of 30 now, volunteer creatives dedicated to connecting writers with readers during the age of COVID and beyond. And today we have a very special guest with us, Zibby Owens, who has been doing the same thing, connecting writers with readers pre-COVID, now through COVID and beyond. And I'm just going to read Zibby's bio really quickly. Zibby Owens is the host of the award-winning literary podcast, Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. On a new podcast, Moms Don't Have Time to Lose Weight, Zibby has been running author salons and hosted book fairs pre-pandemic. During lockdown, she hosted 2 Instagram live talk shows, ZIGTV and KZ Time, which is with your husband, I think, right? And started your virtual book club, which she's on today at 2. She has been everywhere, basically. She's appeared on BBC, CBS This Morning, many local news outlets, is a regular contributor to Good Morning America and the Washington Post. And you have been dubbed New York's most important book fluencer, which is a great name. We call it the lit influencer around here, and live in New York with your husband and 4 kids. And today, Zibby's new book drops, Moms Don't Have Time To, which is, my glasses, what the hell? An anthology of essays by writers about moms don't have time to read, breathe, have sexy time, work out, and there was one other thing, which eat. How could I forget eat? Oh my gosh, how could I forget eat? And with us today also is our author, host of our Blaze Baking Show, Rachel Levy-Lesser, who has an anthology, or has an essay in the anthology, Moms Don't Have Time To. So welcome. And I just wanted to point out, we were talking in the green room that moms don't have time to have COVID. All of the proceeds from Moms Don't Have Time To goes to COVID research because Zibby's family has been affected by COVID, and she has COVID, which she got 3 days before her pub day. So I want you all to go out and buy at least 50 copies of this book in support of this woman who, if I have a hangnail, I don't get out of bed. And here she is doing an interview with us. And it's one of many interviews she has today. So Zibby, you are such a trooper. I mean, I admired you before this. Now I'm like, holla, we need to get you a big bronze Zibby statue. Like, you are amazing.
Thanks, Jenna. I am actually in bed though. So, I've put some pillows behind me, but just in case you think I was really a true warrior, I am not. I am still in bed.
Oh, you're sitting up and it's like Louis the 14th. You're like, l'état, c'est moi. It's Zibby. So, but
why not?
I would just be lying there and crying. How are you feeling?
I'm better than I was this morning. This is day 6 and I've had like every symptom ever. This morning I was like, I'm not gonna be able to do this. It comes and goes. So sometimes I'm super, super weak and dizzy, and other times I feel better. The fever and all that is gone. I won't bore you with the symptoms, but it's basically everything you would imagine. And right now I'm feeling energized because I'm excited to talk to you guys and help bring my book into the world after so long. So thank you for having me.
Oh, well, happy pub day. Happy brave trooper COVID pub day. You are the bomb. So we don't want to suck up all your energy today, but I will ask you to talk about the anthology a little bit for our friends who have not yet had time to buy and read it, which you all should. It's great. I mean, I devoured it like eating candy after candy from a box. The writers are so brave. They're so funny. They're so vulnerable and raw, and talk about things like body image and running and struggling with marriage, struggling with kids, struggling with writing. And just there are men and women in the book who have situations that are particular to all of us. Like, we all don't have time to do anything, and we all have our fears and vulnerabilities, and the bravery of people muscling through those, especially now, is so significant to me. So I'm wondering if you can talk about how you got the idea to pull this together.
Well, that was like the best description I've heard. I'm going to just like use that as my soundbite, Jenna. Thanks. No, seriously. How I got the idea, I originally wanted to make this into a big Goop-like website where I would have tons of essays about all these things moms didn't have time to do. And I had started hiring a team and was going to make a splashy site and like this whole thing. I had started reaching out to authors. This is like back last January, February 2020. And I had just put a spreadsheet together of the guests I had interviewed and had in my head some ideas of what people could potentially write about based on interviews I'd done with them or their books. And everybody was a guest on my podcast. I actually finalized this idea at my kitchen island with Claire Gibson, who ended up helping me. She wrote Beyond the Point and ended up being one of the first editors, along with Alyssa Altman. And then Carolyn Mernick helped me edit some of the essays, many of the essays, I should say. But once the pandemic hit, I realized there was no way I was going to be doing what I had planned with this. So I literally hired one of my old good friends who I met in my very first job after college, Samsara Riley, and was like, can you please just design me something that I can throw up on my own website? So she just did like the bare bones, and I called it We Found Time, because at the time I thought, well, gosh, look at all this time we found. Now everybody's at home. And I decided to just release a couple essays a week in each topic. So I did that for a couple months. And then I decided to stop when I thought that people didn't have as much time anymore. There was that moment in the summer where I felt like, oh, great, things are going to go back to normal, which obviously they didn't. So I decided to put the whole thing on hold and go back to my primary objective or task, which is producing the podcast Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books, which I release 5 times a week or more. And I was also doing an Instagram live show during the pandemic. And then I started a bunch of other things. Anyway, I put that on hold, I guess, in July. And then in early September, I was reflecting on the essays, and I was like, I wonder how many essays I ended up with during all of those We Found Time essays. And so I started taking all of them and put them into a Word doc. And I was like, I wonder if this could be a book. And then it had so many words. I was like, oh, it's a book. So I was like, well, this will be an easy sell because I have contracts with every single author already, and it's all done. And how easy is this? So I literally just talked to one publisher who I knew could get things out quickly, because I didn't want this to linger with traditional publishing speed and come out like 2 years from now. I wanted it like out in the pandemic. Many of the essays were written during the quarantine, not all, and many don't have anything to do with quarantine. They're just about life and living and surviving and getting through anything. But I just pitched to the one publisher that I knew who could turn things really quickly, called Skyhorse. And I handed them the whole thing, and they were like, sure. And I was like, okay, but I'm going to be in charge of everything. Okay. And they said, okay, do it. So I've done like everything, and it's been great. I'm like, I designed my own cover, and I don't know. They've been really nice with my control freak ways. So
I need to show you.
That's still the advanced copy, but the final one, which of course, I put downstairs, looks even better. So. Can
I just ask quickly, like the dumb question that I have been obsessed with, like this dress? Where did you get the dress? Like, I love the dress on this cover. I would wear it to walk the dog. I would wear it to have people in.
It's so funny because I was doing a mini photo shoot with my girls that day, and most of it I was just sitting on the couch in like my normal sweater, blue sweater, whatever that I normally wear. And all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I think I should go put on a ball gown. And everyone's like, what? And I was like, yeah, I think I should go upstairs and like put on a ball gown and like just sit in the midst of all this chaos in a ball gown. So I ran up, and that was one that fit. And I was like, all right, so I can zip this one up. I'm going to wear it.
I love it. I love it. I feel like it's the scene from Pretty in Pink where Molly Ringwald's friend from the record store is like wearing her prom dress and then like these big fuzzy slippers is like kind of the vibe I get, which is what we're all doing right now. You should see what's going on the bottom half here. It is not like the top half. So it's so great. I wanted to give a taste test of the book, one of the essays in the book. So I'm going to ask Rachel to read and put from one of her essays, if you don't mind, so that you can hear, those of you who are going to buy 1 million copies of Zibby's book, that it is so wonderfully connective. Like, I found part of myself in every essay, and I'm not a mom. So, just to know that we all have these commonalities and vulnerabilities, and they were so funny and sweet and smart. So Rachel exemplifies all of these in her essay. And are you reading the one about how you killed your book club?
I am.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Story hour, y'all. Story hour.
Yes. I was one of the contributors to the wonderful book, and it was really fun to hear Zibby talk about how the book came to be, because from one of the contributors, I have to say it was so fun to work with you and your team of editors on writing for you. It's just such a pleasure. And we're all so excited and happy about the book launch today. If I could just speak for all the authors for a second. So as Jenna said, I'm going to read an essay that falls under the category of Moms Don't Have Time to Read. And it was called Wait, Did I Kill My Book Club? It was written at the beginning of quarantine, but it was about a book club that came to be pre-COVID, pre-quarantine. So I'm going to start halfway through and just finish it. So 6 years into my book club tenure, I began to lag behind on finishing the books. Reading them started to feel less like something I wanted to do and more like something I had to do. Kind of like getting through French in college, The English Patient in the movie theater, and geometry in 10th grade. I found myself staying up late trying to finish the books before our next meeting, but I wasn't always successful. I skipped a couple of times because I hadn't done the reading. With my own work deadline looming, my book club reading fell by the wayside. I felt guilty and then stressed out in a weird way, which I hadn't felt since being in school. I knew it was time for me to quit, but I really prided myself on not being a quitter. I sent out a very non-me email to the other members, quite bluntly saying that I would be leaving the book club. I gave no specific reason why, no excuses, no self-deprecating humor, and not even my usual smiley face emojis or XOXO signature. I heard back from a couple of people asking what was going on. Was I okay? What was the deal? I gave my fellow book club members a laundry list of everything holding me back, which I fully recognized was annoying because we are all busy. It occurred to me then that reading books that other people assigned to me was not anywhere near the top of my want-to-do list. I wrote that I felt horrible about dropping out, that I knew I was really lame, but that I still wanted to stay in touch about the books they were reading, and maybe I could even pop in on a meeting once in a while. And then the book club ended. It never met again. Some said it died. Others said I killed it. It became a running joke among my friends and our spouses. I fully took the blame. Maybe the book club's time had come. Maybe I did everyone a favor. Maybe everyone wanted out for a lot longer than I did. Maybe I was just being honest. But 4 years later, I'm still reading. I'm reading what I want to read these days. That seems to be memoir and contemporary fiction, but that could change. Sometimes I listen to audiobooks. Sometimes I don't finish the book I started. Sometimes I just listen to an interview with an author on a podcast and I call it a day. It's so incredibly freeing. It actually feels great.
Thank you for that. And it's so funny to think about Rachel as a killer because Rachel, running our baking show, sends everybody on the Blaze staff cookies, her amazing chocolate chip cookies that we featured on the first show. So to me, she's not a killer. And then I found out she had this other side, which is so fun. So I wanted to ask about the experience of putting together an anthology. Zibby makes it sound easy because she's Zibby, but I know that you have to have the sort of personality of like a mafia don / wedding planner, like sort of relentlessly organized and like very charismatic and also like holding a lot of power as like the titular head of this team. So Rachel and Zibby, do you both feel that you have this new community now from putting together the book? Do you feel like you have a community of sisters and some brothers who all contributed to Moms Don't Have Time to?
I hope people feel that way. I wanted everybody who's a part of my whole podcast, anything to feel like that, not just the book, but hopefully that this will be a nice unifying theme for some of the authors. What do you think, Rachel?
I do. I think, and Zibby's been called this many times before, but that you are a connector. And you've built a huge community of authors through your podcast. And back in the day, your in-person events, and now all your virtual events. And, in the small world department, I knew some people before coming into your podcast writing world, but I've met so many people who've become real friends. And I know so many people feel that way. Working with your team and your editors on this book, it really does feel like a community. And I think that's one of the things you've done so beautifully over the years, whether that was intentional or not, has happened. And that's why it's so great that this anthology came out, where it's a collection of essays and the whole process has been so collaborative and the whole promotion of it is so collaborative. So you're a connector. I love other people. And I think a lot of writers exist in a world of solitude where they're writing, right? But you've brought all the extroverts in us, in the introverts out. And that's been really, really meaningful.
Oh, I'm so glad. And by the way, people told me not to do anthologies. People have told me not to do basically everything that I've done up till now in one phase or another. And I keep being like, why? So don't do an anthology. It's so much work. And at first I was like, okay. And I'm like, well, I'm not afraid of work. I mean, like, that's the gating item. Like, that's something that you can choose to do yes or no. That's not like you don't have the skills or the talent, right? So, I would say also, if anybody else is thinking of doing an anthology, and yes, perhaps I should have been a wedding planner in another lifetime. And I used to do event planning at one of my jobs way back in the day. And in addition to marketing, I used to plan all these events for this internet company. But it's fun. I mean, it's super fun. And my next anthology is coming out in November. And that I did from scratch. As opposed to repurposing content essentially, but that's called Moms Don't Have Time to Have Kids. And again, it's not only for moms, but I thought that was so funny because I mean, we're all so busy. Everybody, like, you might as well just not even have the kids. Right? It's like, we don't have time for them. I didn't mean to conceive. I meant like just to even have them. But that one was fine. A lot of people had asked if they could be part of the next one. Once we figured out the topics, we could go after people again who I'm like, oh yeah, Jean Kwok told me in her interview about living in dire straits in Chinatown and how interesting if she wrote about her journal and so that's also been super fun. I love doing anthologies. I want to like keep this whole thing going for a while because it's also an easy sell for the reader, I think, because the essays are very short and they make you become interested in all these other authors who you might not even have known about. And it gives you a preview before you buy their book, right? You're like, oh, Rachel Levy, interesting, love that. I want to hear more. So my other goal with all of these anthologies is to sell more books of the authors who contribute to them and get more attention to those authors because, pub day comes and goes, but the books are still out there. So I'm hoping that the podcast episodes and the essays all breathe new life into some of those books that are already out there.
I also think what's great about an anthology too is, as a writer and a reader, as a writer, you get to write essays, and many of these authors did, very unrelated to what they've written novels or memoirs or other pieces about. So you see a different side of them. It's like the behind the scenes of the authors. And then as a reader, the readers get to see that different side of them too. And they're like, oh, wow, I never knew. Some of them are very personal, memoir-ish, and they may have written creative fiction or something. And so a reader gets a glimpse and the writer gets a chance to kind of do something a little different. So I think that's what makes this a really fun read and a write, I guess, as well.
I have to tell you that I am much poorer now that I bought the anthology because I kept keying up more and more books on Bookshop as I was reading. But and there are some people I know already, like Courtney Maum and Sally Coslow and Will Dameron, who had contributed to the anthology, and also Rachel, and I have all of their books, but I'm so excited to discover new authors. And so I know that it's a chief joy of reading the book. I mean, I'm going to channel my inner Forrest Gump and be like, an anthology is like a box of chocolate. You can sort of bite into each one and decide whether or not it's for you, each essay. But there wasn't a single essay that I didn't then consume. There wasn't a single essay that I bit into and said, oh, this one is not for me. I learned a little bit with every one. It was such a joy. And I know that we've heard people talk a lot about having concentration issues with the pandemic and having a hard time reading longer form books. And so the anthology is ideal for quarantine reading because you can just read a couple of these and feel so nourished, and also they're just delightful. So I so thank you for pulling this together. Audience, viewers, beloved viewers, if you have questions, please pass them to us. Otherwise, I will keep asking nosy questions. So Zibby, one of my questions is, I'm the mom of a black lab and a company. I know you have Naya is her name, right?
Yes.
I stalk, and being a dog mom, but I feel like I don't have time to do anything. I am showering at 3 a.m. because that's when I have time to do this. And you run all of these platters, you're the ultimate DJ, and you have 4 kids. When do you find time to do this? Do you have a secret hack for time management that you could share with us?
It's so funny. My husband just answered that question, Kyle, on this event we did right before, because I don't really have a great answer as to how I do it. I just kind of always am doing something. My answer is that I'm just super intentional with my time. So I'm never just like, oh, whoops, 2 hours went by and I did blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, I've got 10 minutes. I'm going to cross these things off the list, and then I'm going to go on to this thing. And I'm just like always doing stuff. And with the kids, they're a part of all of it. So I'm always like, oh, here's the book I'm reading today. And they'll say, well, whatever happened? Did they catch that killer? Like I try to keep them involved in all the things I'm reading and all the things I'm doing. So when I close my door, it's not like I'm going to work on a financial model. It's more like, okay, remember that children's book? Now I'm going to ask that guy, and now you can go listen to it if you want, which they rarely do, but that's okay. But my husband was saying that he thinks that the key is that I don't ever procrastinate anything. As soon as something comes in, I do it. And it's true. That's like, if it comes an email, I write right back and I do it right then. So I think that's part of what keeps the whole engine moving. It's like, I feel like I'm at the net. I play a lot of tennis, or anyway, I just feel like I'm always at the net volleying. Like I have to like stand there, and as soon as things come in, I'm just like, boom, 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 boom.
I totally love that. Although when you said you never procrastinated, I'm like, I can't hear you. I'm going into the tunnel, because I do a lot of procrastinating and procrastinating. But I just feel as though, all of us have these vast to-do lists, and every once in a while I'm in my kitchen looking at my to-do list and then thinking, and like with the other hand doing something that's not on the list at all. Like, do you ever do that? And have you always been this way? Always been at the net?
I have always been at the net. I'm not saying I'm perfect. Like some things slip, like of course, but like things I guess I really don't want to do. But yeah, I've always been a to-do list person. Like in college, I would have like study schedules, and I would say like 9 to 10, English studying, and then like do my homework, and I never skipped class. I'm kind of like a nerd that way. I think it's the anxiety of being late to things. I'm always early with deadlines because I'm worried I'm going to be late. So I set all these false deadlines for myself, and then those stress me out. So it's actually stupid and totally ineffective. But it does work in that I'm hardly ever late, and I get a lot of stuff done. Plus, I just love what I'm doing. So it's not like I'm doing stuff like paying my taxes or something. Like, I am legitimately super excited about all the stuff going on right now. Like everything is exciting. It's like I just decided to start Moms Don't Have Time to Write on Medium, which is led by editor Jordan Blumetti, so that people who aren't published authors, or even who are published authors who haven't been on my podcast, could have a place to publish their work too. So like that's been super fun. And now like I have Jordan helping me with that, but like, I don't know. It's just, there's always new stuff, and I don't know. I don't know how I do it.
It definitely shows. Your joy in all your work definitely shows. So I sometimes think with the to-do list, sometimes you spend more time doing the to-do list. You should just check the items off instead of writing in a to-do list. I feel like that's the kind of person you are. Instead of saying email back so-and-so, you just email them back, right?
Well, I wouldn't email someone on a to-do list.
I
mean, that's like, duh, I mean, to be honest, I try, and it's gotten too hard lately, but I try to go to bed with my inbox so that the scroll bar is gone. Like that's always my goal, so that I only have, emails that I can see, but it's gotten very hard. But
yeah.
I actually, and this is part of my procrastination probably, but I'm the person who wastes the time putting the thing on the to-do list that wasn't on it before that I've already done, so that I can cross it off, which is immensely exciting to me. And then you just reminded me that I have to do my taxes. So I'm like, like writers don't have time to do taxes. Moms don't have time to do taxes. I know we have a couple of questions from our audience. This is from a publicist. We know, how can writers apply to be in a future Zibby anthology? Zibby, take it away.
Hi, Laura. It's not even apply. So far, I've just kind of randomly picked people based on, I don't even know what. But if people would like to be in another anthology who have been on the podcast, I would love it. So I don't know what my next 5 topics will be after this next book. Did I say the topics yet on this show? The topics of the next today? Yeah. Like sleep and sick?
No, the title.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So the next 5 topics, which are already written and done, but our moms don't have time to sleep, get sick, see friends, write, and lose weight. So if I do another one after this, I'll pick another 5 topics, or I might try to do some one-offs like Moms Don't Have Time to Grieve, or maybe something like that. So, but anyway, Laura, let me know who would be interested. I would love it.
Half our audience is like, great, we're calling you right away. Libby, your name is Libby now. Is there another book? Patricia, I'm just pulling your chain. Is there another book you'd like to write? Do you have a favorite genre you enjoy and get lost within? What a great question.
That is a great question. I love memoir. That's my favorite genre, particularly stories where people overcome something and it's inspiring in some way. And I've written many other books, not many have been published. I've written several novels, which are on my shelf. My next endeavor that I'd really like to do is write a book called The Book Messenger, and I've already kind of started it, but each chapter is about different parts of my life through the books that I was reading at the time. So I'm working on that.
That's great. That sounds super inspiring. And I'm amazed that you have, of course, several novels that you wrote in all your spare time, just dying to be published. I want to piggyback on Laura's question also and ask for writers who are listening, how do people get on your podcast? Because we all worship your podcast. So I'm just going to dangle that shiny hook out there.
Jenna, you have to come on my podcast. I can't believe
I wasn't talking about me, except maybe I was.
You absolutely 100% have to come on my podcast, and I don't know how you haven't been already. But I don't really have a formula. I have to really like the book is the main thing, because I read it. Now I don't have time to read every one start to finish, but I spend a bunch of time in the book. I read at least the first 50 to 100 pages, and I do a lot of research on the author. So it has to be something that speaks to me. I try to include a range of voices, backgrounds, talents, genres. I don't know how. And I have to respond to the book in some way. There have been plenty of books that have come out or that have been pitched to me, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I know this is going to be like a really big deal book, but I just don't like it, so I don't do it.
And how do you respond to that? Because I get that too, or I get blurbs or requests for blurbs from authors and their publicists, and I just think I might not be a great match for this book because it's just not in my wheelhouse. Is that
That's a good way to say it. I don't know. I say like it's just not a fit or something like that. Sometimes with publicists, I'm just really open. I'm like, you know what? I'm sorry, I just didn't love this book, and they're like, okay, no problem. So
honesty succeeds. And speaking of which, you mentioned that you love memoir as a genre. I'm wondering if you could talk about the essays that you contributed yourself.
Sure.
Which I loved. One of the ones that really struck me was about, you write a lot about body image. And I love that because so many of us, myself included, struggle with this sort of dysmorphia of, looking in the mirror and seeing something that's not actually in the mirror. So can you talk about your essays a little, please?
Sure. I don't think I have dysmorphia. I'm very aware of what's in the mirror. I mean, it's okay. It's just not what I would like to see in the mirror, but I know that it's actually accurate. Actually, I started Moms Don't Have Time to Lose Weight as a way to combat that after putting on some pandemic weight. And I started like a whole community around that too. And I've been trying to like help this community lose weight. And I started another podcast, Moms Don't Have Time to Lose Weight. My essay, I was hoping that like with the threat of like the end of the world, I would stop worrying about like my butt. But, it turns out that no matter what, it's, when my clothes don't fit. So the way I've sort of worked around this is like, again, many people, I'm only wearing really sweatpants and things like that. And so it's only when my pajamas and my bras get really tight where I'm like, oh, I've got to do something about this. Even today I was like, oh my God, seriously, like maybe it shrunk. Let's try another one in the drawer. I wrote about the fact that my not preoccupation, it's definitely taken much more of a front seat than it used to have. And the busier I get with other things, the more it slips down the list. But, I'll probably never stop wishing that I had a different body type. I'm okay with it because I'm like, I've had 4 kids. This is who I am. Like, I'm not going to be 5'10", and I'm not going to look like you, Jenna. I'm like 5'2", and, I weigh more than I would ever admit publicly, but, I don't know. I also eat basically anything I want. So there's that. I eat tons of dessert. I eat a lot, and I pay for that. But I guess it's a choice I've decided to make.
I think that's so healthy and wonderful, honestly. I think we should eat whatever we want. And the more time we spend thinking about all of the things, like the neurotic body things, not health, but things like, oh, I wish I were 5'10" and weighed 102 pounds. Like, who does that anyway? But I mean, all of that time could be going to doing other things like writing anthologies and creating communities and pulling people together. So God bless. Eat whatever the freak you want. Rachel, send me some cookies.
I was going to say, we're all for sweets on this show. I mean,
yeah, we eat a lot of
I love a good sweet. I always say I would do well in England because I have tea and cookies every afternoon.
Yeah, you need that about 4 o'clock. You need that, right? So, this, by the way, is all Sephora and ring light, like this, And again, from the bottom half down, I just like Jabba the Hutt and don't care because I'm busy, right? So the things you're putting together are so worthwhile, so amazing. You've told us what's next. Can you tell us a little bit about what your sort of publication schedule looks like for Moms Don't Have Time To, and where our viewers can come and see you talk about things like GMA, when you're on with your husband? Like, we know you do all the things.
In other words, like press coming up and all that good stuff. I also have 2 children's books coming out from Penguin Random House.
Okay, tell us the titles, please.
It's called Princess Charming. It's going to be a series based on a character named Princess Charming, and it comes out in it's called, the imprint under Penguin Random House is called Flamingo, and it's going to come out in March of 2022. The first one, and then I'm not sure when the second one's coming out, but it'll be some sort of offshoot. In terms of press, yes, every month I write for Good Morning America, where I pick the books of the month for them. And I write regularly for the Washington Post. I have a monthly, basically unofficial monthly appearances on like Good Day DC, and I think Good Day LA now is going to be monthly. And I pop into other shows. I don't know. And then I don't know. What else is coming today? I have a big fundraiser tonight. If anybody is interested, I would love them to come. I'm raising money. I think I said this. I'm sorry, I'm losing my mind here. But all proceeds of the book are going to COVID research. I lost my husband because of my husband's mother and grandmother who passed away from COVID over the summer. And tonight at 7, co-hosted by Bookhampton and the Children's Museum of the East End, there's going to be 40 to 50 authors who contributed to the anthology will be there, and as will the doctors from Mount Sinai, talking about their groundbreaking research and finding another vaccine. And then, I don't know, just a bunch of stuff.
That's really good stuff. Thank you so much. And I am hoping that our producers can find a link to your event tonight and post it. I would love to attend that myself because
please come.
See all of the authors who've contributed. I feel like they're really dear friends now from reading the essays because, again, they are such an inside look into people's psyches and lives and the way they feel about all the things, not just pandemic-related things. So I feel like I personally have a community of new friends who don't actually know I exist. But I
think on your podcast you called it the literary event of February or something.
So. I know, that was so magnanimous or something. I mean, it was.
It's true. There's going to be so many authors there, and it's a party and it's a fundraiser. So. What could be bad?
Yes, and you guys don't want to have lit FOMO, right? So if you don't want to have lit FOMO, which is a very dangerous condition, you should definitely go to Zibby's fundraiser this evening.
It includes the price. It includes a book. So when you get a ticket, you get a book.
Oh, and if it weren't good enough already that you're supporting people at Mount Sinai and supporting COVID research, and that's even better because now you get this book, which is so fantastic. Rachel, can you hold up your mug, please? Yeah. I saw that mug. I saw you.
I love this mug.
That's the Zibby mug.
That's the Zibby mug. I use it all the time.
Zibby has really good swag also, y'all. So you should follow her. Subscribe to the podcast. Go to the fundraiser. Buy the anthology. Moms Don't Have Time To. Zibby, I want to let you go so that you can rest before your several other events today. I just admire you so much, not only for struggling through freaking COVID to do your time with us today, but also just for everything that you've done, being a lightning rod for so many people and for so much good energy in the literary community and beyond. So thank you so, so much for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Zibby.
Yeah, thank you guys too. You do the same thing. It's like the same.
We love it here on Blaze. Oh my
Thank
God.
you for having me on. And also, if there's no link to the fundraiser, you can go to zibbyowens.com and it's on the homepage.
Fantastic. Okay, ZibbyOwens.com. You heard that there, first people. And if you have not yet done so, please subscribe to Mighty Blaze newsletter, because again, you don't want to have lit FOMO. So you want to see what other amazing events are coming in the next couple of weeks and months. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe, stay well.
Thanks, guys.
Zibby, congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks.